So the combine came and went, but there were definitely some ACC stars that are certainly notable here that we're going to discuss on today's show, who definitely earned themselves some money that we knew all along, who are some sleepers that people really need to get on board with. We'll talk about that. As well as senior day, Armando Bacot finally deciding he has to leave Chapel Hill, whether he has a choice. And then ACC Women's Basketball Awards, why there are so many qualified candidates to win the whole kit and caboodle for that tournament happening on Wednesday.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's edition of Locked On ACC. I'm your host, Candace Cooper, joined by Kenton Gibbs of Locked On Wolfpack. Each and every day, you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you download, subscribe to the pod from anywhere. Got a lot to cover on today's show between all the sports that we love to enjoy. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on our YouTube page and always join in on that fun when we have the community time and leave those joyous comments. This episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. All right, Kenton, we got a lot to go over, as I mentioned, and we got to start with football because the combine came and went. There were some very speedy guys, but there were also some very impressive all-around just athletes and ballers at this year's NFL combine. What was your reaction to watching some of these stars?
You know, I say the same thing every year, and the GMs never listen to me, and this is why I guess I'm not in the front office. Stop losing your wits over what these young men are doing in shorts and T-shirts. That is the specific reason that I wore a tank top to the show today, to let y'all know that what I can do in this is not indicative of how I would perform in shoulder pads, helmet, thigh pads, pants, the whole kit and caboodle.
So are you saying that they need to run 40s in full gear?
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm saying is, actually, let me rephrase that. What I'm saying is this. We need to stop putting so much weight into the 40, right? Mm-hmm. That's my biggest takeaway from this because prime example, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody tells me I have been talking to different folks in terms of the scouting world about Peyton Wilson for 3 years now. 3 years. The first year I talked about him, everybody said, oh, he's a first-round draft pick. Can he stay healthy? He did not. And so then it became, oh, he's a great player. He just is not gonna, he's gonna have those moments where you're gonna wonder, is he healthy enough to make it through the season, whatever the case may be. And then I'm told there's nothing he can do to raise his stock in this draft. And then he goes out there and runs a 4.44, and now people are talking late first, early second. And it's like, what happened? And it's not just about him, it's about multiple players. Tez Walker, a guy that ran a little slower than people thought. Keon Coleman, same type of deal.
They ran a little 4.3. That's slow.
Keon Coleman,
not Keon. No. Tez. Keon. If Keon ran a 4.3, we'd be having a whole different conversation.
He would be the number one draft pick. You can't. You don't play around with him. But you get my point in terms of you can't use these things that I'm sorry. Tez Walker did run a 4.36. I apologize there, okay. But either way you cut it and look at it, I believe it may have been Keon who I was referring to in terms of him having a slower 40 and people acting like, what is he? What can he do? Turn on the film. Look at the leading punt returners in the ACC and look at how big all of them are. And look at the one that's an outlier in the group and ask yourself why his big ass was back there if he was slow.
You also have to think about guys who, like Cooper Kupp tweeted out, like, don't let these sort of stats or these sort of performances sort of think that you're never going to be as good. You got Nakua, who also had a really incredible rookie season. So, like, those things hold weight, but they shouldn't if a GM is smart.
Yeah. And my opinion is if you have not seen players play against good competition, right, I can understand it. If you're watching a guy who, let's say, is coming from Concordia University, right, which is an NAIA school. And you're like, oh, no, like, I haven't seen this guy. That's different. Tez Walker, you've seen him play against the best corners. Wiggins from Clemson, you've seen him play against the best receivers. Peyton Wilson, you've seen him play against the best linemen, running backs, receivers. You've seen all of these guys play against the stars. You see how the stars of tomorrow, how they stack up against those guys. So why are we still asking this question of, well, Keon looked a little slow. Well, oh, Johnny ran faster than we thought. We know Johnny Wilson can fly. The question is, can you catch a hitch route? That's the question for Johnny. Can you catch the hitch route, brother? You're going to be wide open, uncontested. Can you do it?
Johnny had 3 apples. I do think, though, that this not only has to do with, of course, the competition, but how sort of the ACC is positioned in the market, right? Because they're not as well respected. People assume that they're not going up against the best of the best, but, you know, the numbers don't lie. Peyton Wilson, of course, being one of them, winning the top, what was it, linebacker award?
Yeah, he won pretty much every defensive award you can imagine, right, including the Bednarik, which I believe is for the top linebacker. So, yeah.
And then, of course,
or
you have
one of those two.
No, yep. Mm-hmm. And then you have guys like Keon Coleman, who just had his superstar season. Johnny Wilson, who knows how to make the insane catches, as you mentioned. Tez Walker, that Drake May connection was one good. And then if you talk about Drake May, right? You had Caleb Williams not do any sort of performances or stat. You had Drake May try to do his best with what he could and what he got. Somebody's going to take Drake May. We don't need to stress about those types of things. It's just like, at the end of the day, we talk about systems all the time here. If they're not fit for the system, it's not going to work out regardless how talented they are. Look, case in point, what's my boy's name out of the Chicago Bears?
Justin Fields. And I'll give you an even better one. You talk about guys in terms of the fit for where they are or whatever you would talk about. Kyle Pitts, he was flatly phenomenal in college, but the NFL system that he was in, it just didn't work out for him.
Ain't still there. It ain't working out for him.
It ain't working out. Arthur Smith found ways to hide him. He said, I'm not hiding you from the world. I'm hiding the world from you. That's what's going on right now.
Now, if Raheem Morris decides to draft a Drake May or, some similar quarterback style, things could change for Kyle.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I'll tell you what, here's the thing. Here's another thing I need people to stop doing. Mm-hmm. In terms of quarterbacks, people are now talking about Joe Milton again and asking the question. And I hand to God, this is a legitimate question I've heard. Well, Joe Milton versus, let's say, a Drake May. Drake may have the film, but when you look at the measurables and what he could do, what his ceiling could be, I don't know if he's over Milton. My brothers, sisters, friends in Christ, I don't care that Joe Milton is big as an ox. I don't care that he can launch the ball 50 yards from a knee. He could not hit the side of a super Walmart from the parking lot. Drake has shown us he can backpack a team that has very precious little by way of talent, with all due respect to those young men that were with him, precious little, and make them look like superstars. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what else he can do.
Right.
And the fact that you're making me talk nicely about Drake May is upsetting my spirit.
Oh, my gosh.
But again, they watch the combine. They see him throwing shorts and T-shirt, no pressure, no reads to make him. Oh, he's a bad man. Sure. As soon as you can put him in a game where he doesn't have to make a read, doesn't have to worry about pressure, and he's in shorts and T-shirt again.
That'll never happen in the NFL, of course. That'll always be the case. He'll always, be able to just throw whenever he wants and however he wants. And guys like Myles Garrett will never get to him, sure. Yeah. But when we talk about just like who may be impressed that people were sleeping on, I feel like Nate Wiggins had a really good combine.
Oh, Nate Wiggins, as the kids today would say, he ate and left no crumbs. That young man, every single drill he tested out in the top percentile of corners. If he wasn't number 1 or 2, he was somewhere near the top of the leaderboards in almost everything that has to do with movement. We all know nobody cares about corners bench press. Nobody's looking like, oh, God, he can't put it up 30 times. But Nate tested out all the things that matter in terms of evaluating corners. Absolutely. That boy was up to something. His preparation, whatever he did pre-draft, more players need to do it because I'll tell you, He did a phenomenal job. He put on an outstanding show, and he is climbing up the charts rapidly, which, again, is one of those things for me that even when it works for the favorite players in the ACC, I'm still skeptical of. You have 2 to 4 years of tape on all these players. Why are we letting what they did on one day skew the results of what you think this player is or is not all that much? But again, credit to the young man because he showed and proved in terms of everything testing wise.
I think that Fisk also had a really good NFL combine. I think that big man was moving, pushing a lot of weight very quickly. I think Jared Verse, of course, does his thing, but it certainly was impressive. Fisk stood out for me from Florida State as one of those, like, people didn't know, but if you were ever confused, I think you shouldn't be.
When we talk about Braden Fisk, you talk about a guy that towards the end came on extremely strong. I don't mean he looked good. He was unblockable. I'd say probably the last 4 to 5 games of his career, I very seriously saw maybe 1 or 2 times where he was blocked one-on-one. I went back and watched the film, and I'm like, he's having his way with these guys. Wherever he wants to go, wherever he's trying to go, wherever the scheme is getting him to go, he's going to get there. He's going to get there, including if that's to your quarterback. Just ask the Louisville Cardinals, whose game he wrecked single-handedly virtually. And so, with that being said, I think that Braden Fisk is another one of those guys that, yes, he did amazing at the combine. Turn on the damn tape. Do your job, GMs and scouts. Get on your Zoom every day at 10. You got to get on your Zoom, baby, because his tape does not lie. Shakira said the hips don't lie. I'm saying the tape don't lie. Turn on the tape and you'll see a ball.
1,000% agree. All right, let's talk more basketball here in just a bit. Want to go through getting buckets with your first bet at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your first bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOnCollege to shoot your shot. FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, so we have a lot going on in football, but basketball is gearing up for its end. It's done on the women's side. Men are getting there close. Senior day for Armando Bacot. It's finally here. He could not come back. He had senior day where he had to get a different color jersey because he had senior day last year, and then he pulled a fast one and decided to come back. People are arguing or maybe even just begging RJ Davis to come back for another year, but I think RJ has made himself all the money he knows how to make and should take his talents elsewhere. There is absolutely no need for him to return, but people do wild things, you know what I mean? As soon as you get that scouting report, and that's what it is. But for this senior class at North Carolina, who's definitely had an up and down sort of stay, I think it is very fitting to be dominating Notre Dame right now. Armando Bacot's first game, Armando Bacot's last game ends with beating the Fighting Irish.
Yeah, I truly look at this situation and I say they were a very impactful class, but UNC is one of those schools where it don't mean a thing if you don't got that ring. Like, nobody's going to talk about how, oh, your senior class, they were the holdovers, When we went from Roy to Hubert, you guys did a phenomenal job. It's about, did you come home with the ring? Did you come home with the championship? And that's the level that UNC is at, and rightfully so. They've earned that for decades now. They've been a team that you consistently look at in terms of being a threat to get to the Final Four, threat to get to the national championship, threat to win it all. And so, with all due respect, hey, more power to you. The senior night is good, it's great, it's fun. You got to bring home a ring. Okay, this ain't some other schools in the ACC where it's like, well, you went to the Natty that one time, right? That was special. No. UNC don't believe it. That's right.
There's still regular season award implications of course, North Carolina beating Notre Dame, going 16-4, and then they have to face off against a Duke team to where if Duke wins, it shakes it up towards the end. But this, of course, Duke UNC Part 2 will be one for the books. Not the same sort of hype and pomp and circumstance as before, but still, of course, you have this regular season type of energy. How important is it, just speaking in general, to win the regular season title? And what do you think that means for teams as they're heading into the ACC tournament?
In terms of the tournament and going forward and all that and what it actually means, let's just be honest, not very much. Not very much, right? But when you look at the circumstances surrounding this one, you're talking about your most hated rival. You're talking about the greatest rivalry in all of college basketball. That, again, nothing comes close. Nothing comes close. This is an energy where it's like the bragging rights of this thing mean more than anything, because there will be folks in Chapel Hill saying till the day that they are no longer with us, hey, how did Coach K's last game go?
100%.
What did he lose that game?
Not even just that, but the Final Four matchup that everyone since the beginning of brackets has seen, we always wanted them to meet. It never sort of worked itself out. And then magically they found themselves in that scenario at Coach K's final dance. And for it to go not his way is just insane.
Yeah. But
no better script writer.
But that's the nature of this beast. And so, for Armando and RJ and all those guys, it's not about, oh, well, you were the guys who you all were instrumental in putting K out of his misery in that way. Doesn't matter. If you look back at it and it's like, hey, you did a good job. You came close to win the ACC tournament. You came close to win it all, but came close is about all we got here.
And for those people who are, what's the word I'm looking for? People who tend to track stats. Carolina typically loses the ACC tournament and then goes on to win their national title, right? They come into the championship game for the tournament and then end up losing and going. So if they were to, let's say, help a team get the automatic bid, a team like an NC State, a team like a Syracuse, team like a Virginia Tech, when the ACC tournament get that auto bid, how many we got going to the tourney?
If we have a bid stealer come in and win the tournament, let's say at this point, I hate to admit it, but Pitt and Wake Forest would be bid stealers. So
Wake Forest last one in right now.
Listen. I would love, and here's the thing, I would love to be wrong. I would very much so love to be wrong about this. The way that they're acting like the ACC has performed this year, and the way people are talking about Wake Forest performance down the stretch, if they were to get knocked out, bounced in the first or second round that they actually play in the ACC tournament, I don't see it. I honestly don't see it.
Okay.
So with that in mind, if one of those teams was to steal a bid, I see three. I see, of course, four. I see, of course, UNC, Duke, and then Virginia, and then the fourth would be whoever the bid stealer is. I want to make an argument. for Clemson.
Clemson and Wake Forest deserve it. I think Pitt would definitely be on the cusp. They need a couple more wins to get in there. It's crazy because in past lives, 6 teams is not crazy for the ACC.
I think that there should be. And here's the thing, right? What I'm saying about these teams is not what I believe they deserve.
Right.
This is me saying what I believe the selection committee will do. And as we have seen in recent history, baby, in the words of Saucy Santana, one thing about that committee, they are not on your side. Okay.
And Florida State might mess around and be a bid stealer. So,
And if Florida State was the bid stealer, again, same thing. If we get a bid stealer, I see 4 in the possible. You know what I mean? Like we got a good spades hand here. 4 in the possible.
4 is not a good spades hand, but go ahead.
If your partner can do a little something after you got 4 in the possible, you all right. You know what I mean? You got to know how to twerk that thing to make something happen there. You know what I mean? But that's neither here nor there. The reality is I see 4 in the possible as the outcome if we get a bid stealer. Sure. If one of the obvious teams wins it and all of the teams that are on the bubble perform poorly to where like, hey, y'all got 1 win and you're out, I honestly see 3 in the possible.
That's fair. All right, let's end this show talking a little bit about women's basketball. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. Class exclusive Google built-in is you're always updating assistant to call on for most of anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen information system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. Make sure that you check it out now by going to shopnissanusa.com. You can shop at nissanusa.com to get yourself on to the next big adventure. All right, we end the show talking about women's hoops. Elizabeth Kitley is the ACC Women's Player of the Year. She damn sure did her thing. It is exciting time for women's hoops if you're paying any bit of attention. I mean, I would hate to have been this committee having to try to figure out who deserved what award because, man, so many deserving young ladies.
Yeah, just as the same way that we're seeing all of these teams be good, it's not by accident, right? Like you don't see all of these teams be good without multiple players showing up and being big time players. And so Elizabeth Kitley and what she's done here, collecting her, I believe this is what, her third player of the year? Like, you know, death, taxes, Elizabeth Kitley winning ACC player of the year, 3 things that you can book for as long as the sun rises on the east and sets on the west. She has been a driving force behind the champion in the ACC, and so it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, 1,000%. Hannah Hidalgo winning ACC Defensive Player of the Year, also winning ACC Freshman of the Year for Notre Dame, just getting started and having that sort of, power and stronghold into what will be a great career for her. It's also very exciting, right? I think that overall, the girls that won held it down. The Syracuse coach getting ACC Coach of the Year, certainly exciting as well. Her and Deasia Fair had quite the year as that duo, just trying to really put Syracuse on the map.
What a 2-year turnaround for Syracuse.
Man,
what a 2-year turnaround.
Man, I'm trying to tell you what. And just to think about what this tournament is going to be like starting on Wednesday. I mean, everyone can get it.
Yeah, I remember.
Go ahead.
I remember when Syracuse was the pits. When Syracuse was coming through, oh yeah, go ahead, book that W. Book that. Now all of a sudden you got a top team, and it's not just Deasia, it's the whole team coming along. That's Coach Leggett deserves all the love. She deserves all the love, all the respect. Hey, do your thing, do what you got to do because that is a team that has turned this thing around in quick, fast, and in a hurry, as the elders would say.
Right. You got Syracuse coming up there, Virginia Tech, Georgia A. Moore certainly doing her thing. You have Notre Dame. You have North Carolina that's very inconsistent, but they could be. When they're a good team, they're a great team. When they're a bad team, they're terrible. You got NC State, who's been NC State for quite some time now. You've got a Miami team that can be streaky, but when they're good, they're great. You've got a Wake Forest team that might not get in this thing, but they could disrupt some things, if you will, right? I think that's the biggest part. But Virginia also coming in, beating Virginia Tech and during that Commonwealth battle. So who would you give credence to, of course, winning this thing when it's all said and done?
I mean, I think that this is going to be a clash of the Titans at the end. I think you're going to get 1 versus 2 ready to square this thing off. And I know that Coach Westmore going to want his get back on Kenny Brooks. I know he's going to want it. He's going to want it bad. But the question is, how healthy is River Baldwin going to be, and Elizabeth Kitley as well? Those are the big questions because River Baldwin
knee looks crazy.
Yeah, if River Baldwin ain't rolling, you can't stop Kitley. But if Kitley ain't rolling, Virginia Tech got a whole nother set of problems because she's not the ACC Player of the Year 3 times. For no reason. Like she didn't get that because that is one of the more unanimous decisions every year. I don't think that anybody has been arguing any of these years. Oh, this player from my team should have won it. No, stop it.
I think Alyssa Cunane, maybe. No.
I think Alyssa Cunane had an argument, but the biggest thing that undercut her was it was so much of a team performance. You couldn't just give her credit in the same way that it would for Elizabeth Kitley when Georgia Amore wasn't Georgia Amore yet.
Right.
And she's sitting up there like, I mean, yeah, you got a shooter or two out there on the perimeter for Virginia Tech. I want to say the last name was King or Saylor, one of those two. Mm-hmm. She was really good at knocking down those stand-up threes, but she was only getting those looks because teams were having to hard double Kitley. Because when she got in that post, it was hibachi. It was 50 flow eating hibachi because I'm telling you, she was chopping them up. So the reality is, if she's not healthy, not only are we looking at a dangerous situation for the ACC tournament, you're looking at the NCAA tournament as like a team
1,000%.
that, you know, had national championship aspirations is now, I think, would be lucky to make it to the Elite Eight.
She needs to be doing her rice routine every single day, off that knee, scooting, however she needs to get to class, whatever she got to do. I mean, she's probably a 10-year senior, so I mean, she's probably on online classes, but I really need my girl to just get that rest.
Leave her alone. She is only 22, unlike some of these players whose senior nights came and went. And they about, you know.
Cormac Ryan, if you're listening, it's time to go, buddy. Pack it up in the mail. Pack it up in the mail. Go get a real enterprise that get you part of that enterprise program.
I know during that Tez Walker situation, everybody kept reminding us of how old Bradley Rosner was. He's in his 8th year. He's in it. You know, the boy down there in Miami too. We looking at you too, brother. That tight end down there on year 10.
Hello. When it's all said and done, though, I do think that it'll be a great women's tournament. I'm really excited to see sort of how, you know, there's going to be some upsets. There's going to be some last second shots. I think whoever wants it is any given day. Like we've said all season, it's about just who was better on the court that day. And I'm hopefully seeing, so I just want to upset low key. Like, I think I really want Syracuse or like a Notre Dame to go ahead and shake it up. Right. But I think that NC State might get the job done. I really feel strongly about that one. But like you said, a really healthy Virginia Tech team could, you know, run the table.
The beauty of this thing is all the teams that have a shot at winning, none of them are bid stealers. Not a single one.
Right.
Nobody.
Right. We're going to have a strong 7 or 8 in this bad boy. We don't have to, you know, second guess. And that's a healthy thing, right? I don't know whatever the mainstream media loves about women's basketball, but if it could translate over to the men's side, we would do just fine. But all said, you know, all that to be said. We've got a lot to cover this week. We've got a lot to go over in terms of basketball as we head towards tournament time. Of course, we're going to keep you updated on all things football. So you don't want to go anywhere. Make sure you check us out on our YouTube page and anywhere you listen to podcasts. We hope you guys have a good start to the week. For Candace Cooper and Kenton Gibbs. Until next time.